They say that every marriage has its secrets, but some secrets are so dark. They threaten to destroy everything in their path. If you had seen us, you'd think we were the picture-perfect family. A loving couple, 2 beautiful children. A home that was always warm and welcoming. I was the doting wife, and Robert was the dedicated husband. Yet beneath the surface of that perfect life was a truth so fragile that even the smallest crack could shatter it forever. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I betrayed the man I loved. How I hid my secrets under a flawless mask. And how in the end everything came crashing down around me. If you're looking for a neat, tidy ending, this isn't it. I am not here to justify my mistakes, but to share the weight of my regret, hoping that others won't make the same choices I did. Our marriage had always been strong, or at least that's what I wanted to believe. Robert and I met in college, where we bonded over dreams of a shared future. He was my best friend, my partner in everything. And as the years passed, we built a life that many envied. But over time, the reality of life settled in. Robert's career in finance demanded more of him with each passing year. And while I stayed home to care for our 2 children, he spent long hours at work building a future for us. I convinced myself that his absence was temporary, that he was sacrificing for our family. But deep down, a quiet loneliness began to creep into my heart. I told myself to be patient, to wait for him to come back to me. But as the days turned into weeks, then months, my hope began to waver. I tried everything to make him notice me, but Robert's focus was on work. I felt like I was fading, becoming a ghost in my own life. A background figure in the story of his success. It was around this time that I met David. He was Robert's colleague, a charming, confident man who seemed to have all the time in the world to listen. The first time we spoke was at one of Robert's work events. Robert was busy networking, and I found myself alone watching him from a distance. David noticed me and came over to make conversation. He had a warm smile, a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. We talked about trivial things at first, but even those conversations felt like a lifeline. Soon David began texting me. Simple messages at first, harmless things checking in, making me laugh when I felt low. It felt innocent enough, and I kept telling myself there was nothing wrong with it. But deep down, I knew I was treading dangerous ground with each message. Each secret conversation, I felt myself being pulled further into something I couldn't control. One evening, when Robert was away on a business trip, David invited me to dinner. I hesitated, but I couldn't deny how much I wanted to go. I told myself it was just dinner, just a harmless escape from the monotony of my life. But as I dressed that night, a small voice in my mind warned me that I was making a terrible mistake. I silenced it, convincing myself that I deserved one night of freedom. The dinner was everything I had imagined. David was attentive, engaging, and he looked at me in a way that made me feel alive again. We laughed, we shared stories, and as the evening went on, the line between right and wrong blurred. By the end of the night, I had crossed a line I could never uncross. After that night, I was a different person. Guilt gnawed at me every day, but it was accompanied by an acceleration I couldn't ignore. I knew I was playing with fire, but I told myself I could keep my 2 worlds separate. When Robert was home, I was the perfect wife, smiling, caring, hiding my secret behind a mask of contentment. But when he was away, I was someone else entirely. A woman caught in a whirlwind of temptation, addicted to the thrill of a life that wasn't mine. As the months passed, my relationship with David grew deeper, more intense every time we met. I felt myself falling further, losing more of who I once was. I stopped recognizing the woman in the mirror, the one who had promised to be faithful, who had built her life around her family. I wanted to pull back to end things, but I was in too deep. I was trapped in a cycle of secrecy and deceit. and each life felt heavier than the last. Robert began to sense that something was wrong. He noticed my distance, the way I seemed distracted, lost in thoughts I couldn't share. He asked if everything was okay, and each time I brushed him off, hiding behind excuses, but Robert was no fool. He became more suspicious, watching me with a questioning gaze that made my heart pound with fear. Then one fateful night, my entire world collapsed. I had been careless, too wrapped up in my own desires to notice the signs. Robert came home unexpectedly from a business trip, and as he walked through the door, he saw a message flash on my phone. A message from David that left no room for doubt. I watched the realization dawn on his face, saw the pain and betrayal in his eyes. And in that moment, I knew I had destroyed everything. He confronted me, his voice trembling with rage and hurt, demanding to know how long I had been lying, how many times I had betrayed him. I had no answers, no excuses that could make up for what I had done. I stood there silent and ashamed as he looked at me like a stranger, like someone he could no longer trust. The silence that followed was unbearable. He didn't shout, didn't ask questions. He simply left, walking out the door without a backward glance, leaving me alone in a house that now felt like a prison. I waited for hours, hoping he would come back. But as the night turned to dawn, I realized that he was gone, really gone in the days that followed. The weight of my actions crushed me. The thrill, the excitement, the illusion of happiness. It was all gone, leaving nothing but emptiness and regret. I tried to reach out to Robert, try to explain, but there was nothing left to say. I had taken the one person who had always been there for me, who had loved me unconditionally, and I had shattered his trust beyond repair. The guilt was unbearable, and each day felt like a punishment. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, haunted by the image of his face, the betrayal etched into his eyes. I had lost everything I held dear, all because I had chased a fantasy. A fleeting moment of desire that wasn't worth the cost. Now I live with the consequences of my choices, with the knowledge that no secret, no hidden desire is worth the destruction it leaves in its wake. I see my children's faces, the confusion in their eyes, wondering why their father doesn't come home anymore. And I feel the full weight of what I've done. I've tried to explain, tried to shield them from the truth, but some wounds can't be hidden. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that every decision has a consequence, and no matter how carefully you hide the truth, it always finds a way to come to light. My life now is a shadow of what it once was, a daily reminder of the price of betrayal. I used to believe in second chances, but some mistakes are too great, some scars too deep to heal. So if you're reading this, take my story as a warning. Don't let loneliness or longing drive you to make choices that will destroy everything you've built. The thrill of the forbidden fades, but the consequences remain, and the pain of losing what truly matters is something you can never escape. In my search for something more, I lost everything that was real, everything that truly mattered. And now, all I have left is the hollow echo of a life that could have been,